Hello, hello. Hello, my name is Tomoko, a freelance researcher from Japan. And beside me is Akiko.
Hi, I'm Akiko from Intel Japan.
Okay, today we are excited to share with you about our method with the presentation title of Fell in Love at First Sight or Started as a Friend. And first of all, about the title. So what is love? We are not talking about the human romance today. Love here is the bond between the customer and the brands. But why does the bonds matter? Next, about the method. Recollection, repetition, reflection is our newly developed qualitative method which utilizes the power of oral storytellings which transform consumers from respondents to great storytellers who would show us how their brand experience is developed into bonds. And this is a combination of cognitive interviews and projective technique using tarot, and I will talk about it later on in more detail. And finally, what does this method bring us? Okay, so Akiko-san, can you start your story?
Thank you so much, Tomoko-san. So, as Tomoko-san mentioned, today we will talk about love. Our approach, recollection, repetition, reflection, was developed to help brands to build a stronger brand by uncovering process of how customers fall in love with a brand and what makes a brand the significant other to the customers. We call this love a bond, which is a strong customer-brand relationship. By understanding the process of forming a bond, brands can develop a scenario of how to approach consumers at different stages of the relationship with the brands in different life contexts. And identifying what key elements of brand experiences that make a brand the significant other, which we call bonding keys, helps brands to design touchpoints to create brand experiences that cultivate a stronger relationship with customers, which eventually grows to a bond. But why is it important for brands to form a bond with their customers? Because it will give a brand a special position in customers' mind. When a bond is formed, customers will be not only willing to pay more, but they will be happy to play an important role as enthusiastic advocates and promoters of the brand, and eventually bring new customers. A bond is formed through great brand experiences. Therefore, it is necessary to understand what great brand experiences are, which eventually foster a bond between customers and the brand. There are various ways of exploring experiences. One that always shows up throughout history is oral storytelling. In any culture, at any time in our history, humans share experiences with others through oral storytelling. It is also a very natural way for humans from a psychological perspective because humans organize their experiences in the form of narrative. So, our idea is that listening to consumers' stories is the best way to understand their brand experiences. At the same time, in order to transform their stories into research findings and eventually into marketing actions, we have to capture 4 elements of experiences. Firstly, brand experiences have to be understood in relation to consumers' life context. Secondly, the meaning of the brand for consumers, especially in relation to their self-concept, have to be also understood. Thirdly, emotional aspects of experiences cannot be forgotten. Fourthly, chronological development of the relationship needs to be captured too. Next, Tomoko-san will tell more details of our approach, recollection, repetition, reflection.
Okay, thank you. So the method. Our method follows 3 steps. The first 2 steps are the modification of cognitive interviews. The cognitive interviews is a method originally employed in police when they interviewed to the accident eyewitnesses. Unlike the ordinary police interviews, which consist of asking and answering, cognitive interviews consist of free narratives, which gives all the initiative to witnesses, thus avoiding the influence by inspectors. While there are no direct questioning or probing, they have developed various mnemonic aids to enhance the memory retrieval, and one of the examples is guided peripheral focus. These techniques guide witnesses to divide their whole experience into chapters and tell the story, focus on each chapter one by one. That makes them remember more contextually and lively, making some new fragments of memory coming out one after another. And in the final step, we use tarot cards. Tarot is a deck of play cards, very old, and the oldest deck found so far goes back to early 15th centuries and have survived up to today. The picture of tarot shows symbols of archetypes. Archetypes are the constituents of collective unconscious theorized by Carl Jung. In qualitative research, this card contributes to us as a beautiful starter of storytelling, since consumers can easily link these archetypes or symbols with their own life or emotions. Okay, let's go more practical. How does the interview goes on our project to explore the brand experience? The first step is recollection. This is the kind of mental time travel. Consumers recollect their brand experience history in the context of their life history and draw a brand relation curve chart. And this is the example of what, come on. Yes, this is the example of what they drew. It's beautifully done, isn't it? And when it is finished, they start their story. The quiet solo drawing work has already made them eager to vocalize what they remember and transform them to great storytellers. Next, repetition. When the whole story is told, they are advised to divide the story into chapters and give the title to each of them by their own words. And then they tell the story again, but this time chapter by chapters. And the final step is reflection. This is a phase to explore what the brand means to them. The set of the cards are spread, and consumers select the ones reflecting what the brand means to them as a whole, as well as by chapter, and next, one step beyond, and select the cards reflecting themselves. The cards are intuitively selected, followed by their introspective talk about what made them select these cards. Then, how should we behave and how does it work? During the whole course of the interviews, what researchers should do is listen, listen, and listen. Don't interrupt them by probing. Instead, show them with your own manners or gestures that how deeply involved are you in listening to their story. Such new relations between respondents and researchers will make the consumers more and more engaged, making their own story naturally emerge from they themselves. The repetitive storytelling is specifically strong to enrich the story, since it prompts new episodes or new fragments of memory popping up. Tarot is also great. The symbolic pictures release their emotion and elicit rich expression about the brand with so much originality and creativity, and sometimes it is so interesting to find that their emotion towards the brand was expressed through the same pictures of their ideal self-image. So far, we have done more than 120 interviews with this exercise, not only with Japanese, but also with the people of other nationalities. They all went very well, and also they observed some common tendencies about the card selection and their story behind. So we are happy to believe that this approach is cross-cultural. Okay. Let's go next. So, Akiko-san.
Thank you, Tomoko-san. So, what does this approach bring to us? We consolidated findings from the 120 stories and developed them to a framework to understand how and by what experiences a bond is fostered. the two processes of forming a bond, and the 7 bonding keys. As we titled our presentation, Fell in Love at First Sight, or Started as a Friend, a bond is formed in a similar way as an interpersonal romantic relationship. We call the first process, Fell in Love at First Sight, working towards, and the second process, Started as a Friend, working with. Let me illustrate how the relationships developed in each of these processes using examples of one brand, Starbucks. Starbucks, at least in Japan, is one of a few brands that successfully foster a bond in both of these processes. First, working towards. One of our respondents immediately fell in love with Starbucks when he saw it in a fashion magazine. Starbucks signifies what he longed for, a fashionable urban life in Tokyo. However, Starbucks was out of his reach because he lived in countryside where no Starbucks shop was around. As he grew, he came nearer to Starbucks both physically and psychologically. Finally, he felt he reached the level where Starbucks stood when he moved to Tokyo and was accustomed to the life there. Thus, working towards is a process for customers to fill in the distance between themselves and the brand, which is often out of their reach when they fall in love with the brand at first sight. On the other hand, in working with process, love grows more slowly. For another respondent, Starbucks always had been one of her favorites since she was still in her hometown. She only realized how much Starbucks meant for her when she moved to Tokyo. In Tokyo, she was lonely, but when she was in Starbucks, she felt at home, with the same tasty drink, the same friendly service, and the same cozy atmosphere. It was how Starbucks won a special position in her mind. Thus, in the working with process, the relationship starts as a friend who is always with you, and gradually the friendship grows to a romance. Next, bonding keys. There are 7 bonding keys, and they are roughly classified into 2. Impactful experiences for customers, and experiences that are related to customers' identities. As impactful experiences, 2 bonding keys are identified. One is wow, and another is problem solving. Next, self-identities. Based on how brands help customers to construct or support their identities, 3 types of bonding keys are found. Who I want to be, that reflect customers' ideal selves. Who I am, that reflect customers' actual selves. And I can be myself with you. In the first type, who I want to be, 3 bonding keys are identified. Aspiration, achievement, and my best days. With the aspiration bonding key, brands represent what customers aspire for, such as high status or fashionable life, just like the example of the Starbucks fan in the working towards process. He wanted to attain the qualities Starbucks represented, such as fashionable and urban. With the achievement bonding key, brands works as a means to help customers to achieve their goals or dreams. And with the My Best Days bonding key, brands represent customers' happiest selves in the past, in their happiest days. Now, the second type, who I am, and the bonding key is my roots, my role. Both affirm one's identity. With my roots, by reminding them of their roots or origins. With my role, by helping customers to fulfill their societal role, such as a loving mother. Next, the third type, I can be myself with you. And the bonding key is my mentor, my companion. With this bonding key, brands give an assuring feeling for customers at their major life events, such as a kind of crisis or pleasures or hobbies that customers are really into. Like how Starbucks heals the loneliness of the Starbucks fan in the working with process, just like a good mentor who supports her in her emotional crisis.
Okay, thank you. So, I hope you enjoyed our story. Did you? Still, we are accumulating consumer stories and might have a chance to share with you something new. But at this moment, we are glad to say that our method and the framework helps us a lot with high engagement, which transforms consumers to great storytellers, and Recollection, which transforms consumer stories to actionable insight, regardless of cultures, religions, language, and so on. This is almost all what we wanted to say today. So thank you.
Thank you so much.